Everyone, this is going to be another speed VOD review of an MSI series or game. This is SK Telecom versus IG. IG currently undefeated going into this game. Yet again, I have not watched this game. I do know the result, but I'm curious to see how it unfolds. SK Telecom, one of the things I'm looking to see if it happens again in this game is, do they continuously have bad drafts? Are they living in the past? Are they going to manage to get ahead? Is Khan going to arbitrarily do things in the mid to late transition that just seems very aimless? Is Teddy and Mata going to be on non-traditional bot laners? Is Faker going to take another control mage in the sense of Azir or something like that and handshake it? So obviously I can see a little bit of the draft so far, but I actually don't know if that's going to be top rise. So Draven banned away against Jackie Love. Now, one, people don't know that in Korea, it's often thought that if the opposing player is capable of playing Draven and you want to play Kalista, you have to ban it. So Draven, Nico, and Aurelia are banned away. Opposing actually banned away Taric away from SK Telecom, I guess respecting the fact that they can play it or something. Akali banned away as well, as that is able to be flexed between the two. And then Jace obviously away from Khan. So SK Telecom opens with a Ryze. Ryze is really, really strong. He answers a lot of mid laners, able to be flex top, and IG ends up responding with Sylas and Galio. And now, at this point, you must know that the Sylas is a flex between mid and top, and then the Galio is a flex in very, very rare cases between mid and support, only if your name is Griffin, so this is likely going to be a support Galio. And so now, SK Telecom, it goes over to them for next option, and they end up picking Braum. And so at this point, you already have a hybrid type champion right here. And what I mean by that is Braum, obviously, he's a little bit different from Alistar in the sense that he offers the engage and also the disengage. You have an engage onto Jarvan. So you have engage Jarvan, you have engage on Braum, you have short range on Ryze. So all of these things are aligning with very, very, very short range and a need to engage. And then also because they are the blue team, they don't have the luxury of turtling their red side jungle, and so we assume that the gear that Braum can flip on, being able to be defensive and whatnot, might not actually factor into the overall team composition that SK Telecom could be looking to go for. And so now when it's handed back over to you, you have option to pick champions that can really just abuse this. And so at this point, I think in an ideal world, you can put Ryze in, or you can put Galio into mid lane, and you can probably just pick ADC here. And then if you end up picking ADC here, you could pick something probably like Ezreal, because you know that they have to engage and they have to be very aggressive with it. And so now if you hold Ezreal here and Galio with Sylas and we go to the second bans, what you end up doing next is you ban away 80 carries that are able to be some sort of a hyper carry, or you want them to move off color. So this is very similar to Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, where currently, even though Ryze and Braum have different gears, they're sort of like the Magic cards that have two color modes. Right now, the team composition out of SK Telecom is very aggressive and short range. So the Ezreal naturally negates it, naturally works against it. The Sylas is able to be very tanky later on. He's also able to work against it. He's able to utilize the ultimates defensively. IG also has going for them that they're on red side Ezreal, and red side's very scary. So now what ends up happening is you ban away ADC, because nothing else really matters. So now that you banned away ADC, they are thinking that Galio is a support. And so now what ends up happening is they ban away mid laners and top laners, but that's okay because you have the Sylas on flex. At that point, then you could end up probably moving the Galio into mid lane. You could end up picking Zyra, and then you could probably just pick Gangplank up in top lane. And then it's a very nightmare situation for the opposing team, because right here, you go Gangplank, they banned away mid tops, you banned away ADCs. They go Gangplank right here, and now they have Ezreal, Galio, Gangplank. You hand it back over to the opposing team. If you have Galio, Ezreal, and Gangplank right now, enemy has to choose something that is going to be able to fight back against this. And so maybe an option ends up existing as like Tristana. Maybe you can potentially make an argument for Jinx or something like that. So then they go with that, and then they go with, they try to go with a long-range ADC, and if they don't, I can explain how they can end up just fumbling the whole draft in a second. If they go with Kalista, which, you know, obviously Teddy and Mata are known for playing the Kalista thing, then they have Kalista Braum, and then they pick a champion that is able to maybe be flexed with the Rise, and then they hand it back over to you, and then you go Zyra. And then at this point, you have Sylas. Or not Zyra. Yeah. Oh, no, you have to... Oh, God. I just messed up. Not Gangplank. I'm blanking. You choose jungler here. 80 jungler. Choose 80 jungler here. You can choose anything that you want. You can probably actually just choose Xin Zhao. You can choose Xin Zhao, and then you go Zyra. They thought that Galio was support, and it's not. And so now Galio goes into mid lane. You have Sylas in top. You have Xin Zhao or 80 jungler in jungle, and then you have the 80 coming in from Ezreal. That's pretty much all that you need to do. And then SK Telecom loses the draft. And so stuff like this, I think, is really, really bad. Unless you know that the enemy team isn't capable of being very flexible with their picks. Anyways, that was a very long explanation, but I like talking about draft because it's something that I think that a lot of people are very, very weak at. Instead, IG locks in the Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa can obviously have the scaling component, and then also she can actually play into what SK Telecom kind of want to have happen. So now 80 jungler is being banned away, which is the Rek'Sai, which counters the J4. Rek'Sai, obviously good synergy with the Galio as well. And then right here, the bans have to come in. So we have Varus and Kalista, which are primarily lane bullies. And so now, at this point, you can pick jungler here to contain whether or not Sylas is flex mid-top. It's going to be Xin Zhao. Enemy team picks Lucian and Kennen. You can still pick Zyra. You can pick Zyra right here. Zyra right here, Galio goes mid, IG wins. There is no way for this team comp to engage into Zyra. There is no way that they want to itemize magic resist, which means that Zyra and Sylas and Galio are going to be hitting like trucks. There is no way that this team can win without Baron. You put Galio mid, you go Zyra. Instead, we get Zoe, which makes no sense whatsoever. Makes absolutely no sense. Another, I mean, I guess there's multiple mid lane picks that you could take here. This is actually a very sad spot where I would say that even Ahri is potentially acceptable. Zyra is completely acceptable. But, yeah. Ahri is actually probably really fine here. Someone in Twitch chat's asking, what about Veigar? Well, the thing about Ahri is her ultimate makes it almost impossible for J4 and Kennen. The additional charm makes it very, very hard for the champions that are going to be trying to engage. There is a trade going on. And, okay, so let's talk about what just happened. Rookie's at 200 HP. Faker, obviously, has already popped his potion. Rookie has popped his potion as well. Faker is at about 200 or 300 HP. Now, the thing here, though, is that Faker has teleport. So, the fact that Faker has teleport means that on wave 3, he can actually come back into lane, and then this demands that Ning actually come into mid. Rookie getting the initial damage on the minions, ends up whiffing on that QQ. And so Xin Zhao going for a pretty aggressive route, and J4 as well is actually doing this to this. And I really like this a lot because if Xin Zhao tried to do something really silly like this, it's going to counter it. It's also going to make it so that Ryze can actually play left-centric, and then all that bottom lane has to do is basically play down towards the bottom, and everything's really nice. Because we already know that Faker has won out really, really hard in mid lane because of the level 1 trade. Good trading so far. J4 actually does the blue before the Gromp. I don't like that. I think you just maximize duration. And now Klid is going for a gank up in top lane. I think that's quite good. on the minimap. Yep, he's dead. Shy's dead. And so right now, you could actually just stick around because you know that the Shy is never warded, and you could go to Bengium. And now Faker gonna have to run away. Clit ends up saving that. And in doing so, the Shy ends up actually missing out on a little bit of a wave in top, and now this means that the lane state is actually really bad for him. So this is very well set up by Khan and Clid. Very easy kill. And then meanwhile, you can see that Ning is trying to make this play happen. Ends up actually making a little bit of an error. Clid ends up saving it, smites even though he's going to die anyway, and then Faker actually has to cancel his recall. So he's coming back into mid lane. He ended up losing that whole minion wave onto the turret. And so that has to be factored in too. And Clid now down in bottom because one of the things that I guess that we didn't talk about coming out of draft is how does SKT win? Well, we just actually looked at a Team Liquid versus G2 game. And in the game, we know that the team that has the hard engage, especially on blue side, has the onus to usually get Baron if they do not have a reliable form of siege, which this team does not. Kennen is able to semi-split push, but not really. He's going to be slowed down and stunted by Sylas later on into the game. And so because of this, SK Telecom has a very heavy reliance on Baron. Well, the problem is that Ocean's the first one of the game. And so if you're IG and you know that you can just continue to scale up and that the only person that you have to be afraid of in the later stages is going to be Ryze for the most part, SK Telecom has to utilize Clid in the early stages to accrue a large enough advantage to pressure all of the lanes and reduce Xin Zhao and basically keep the game in a very starved economic state. Very aggressive play happening down in bottom. Faker trying to release the wave. Ning coming back over, gonna get the rubber band raptor camps. And Faker's actually recalling on a non-cannon. Oh, he cancels his recall. He's staying out of Fog of War, and the reasoning for that is because he wants to maybe make Zoe think that he's recalled, so that Zoe just doesn't let the minions do whatever they want, and then Faker actually ends up getting zoned out of CS. So because Rookie actually pushed in the wave, Faker ends up getting all of the CS, but it doesn't really matter that much. Right now, IG is going to convert, it looks like, into an open Drake, but this is actually really bad. Open Drake doesn't really do anything. You run the risk that a Mountain or an Infernal comes up next. Ocean Drake is not beneficial to your team, nor is it beneficial to the opposing team, and the opposing team is never going to be in a position to actually get the dragon because the mid lane is just actually getting dominated so hard, and Faker's locked into lane because he doesn't have teleport, and Zoe is able to sustain into this lane into the actual blue buff. So had Xin Zhao actually just recalled and bought items, path to the red, got the red, come into mid, and then Faker is still struggling to get a recall off, it demands that Jarvan actually come into mid lane, and then Xin Zhao paths into the blue, leashes it for the Zoe. Zoe gets the blue, comes back into mid. Faker still doesn't have teleport available. Mid lane's in a very, very rough spot because Faker is and is demanding Jarvan's attention. This takes a lot of pressure off of the Sylas, and it takes a lot of pressure off of the bottom lane for JackeyLove and Galio, and this is the exact type of thing that you want to have happen. So we see that Khan's actually roaming here, and in doing so, he actually misses quite a large minion wave up in top lane, and he's even going to share XP with Faker on some of these minions. So very, very poor play by Khan. There was no roam that actually existed there. Clit ends up getting the red. He's going to come into the golems. And you can just see that Xin Zhao, even though they SK Telecom get the Ocean Drake, Xin Zhao is just very, very behind on tempo because you can see that Faker's and this sequence could have already happened. Zoe could have blue buff right now. You could be demanding that J4 actually come into mid lane, and then because Faker's recalling, depending on what the state of top lane is with Sylas, you could maybe have Sylas actually push in because Kennen made the silly roam into mid lane. And then maybe you could attack the blue buff as an objective. J4 shows down in bottom, and then immediately IG respond by capturing the blue buff, and Faker is just bleeding right now because he needs relief in mid. And Clid is going to take the blue. Khan ults defensively, obviously trying to keep the wave off the turret because he realizes that he could be dived. Ning comes down here, ends up landing the knock-up, and Khan lives because Ning made a mistake. Oh, no. Khan actually... well, Ning does make a mistake, but Khan played it very well. He did basically everything that he had to do to try to live through that situation. So now Khan doesn't have teleport available. Let me see the HP on that plate, actually. Oh, it's super healthy. Okay, there's no point to stay. So the Shy's going to recall now and be able to come back into lane. IG is in a fantastic spot right now. SK Telecom are very, very, very behind. And again, the reason that they're behind is because of what is going to happen in 10 minutes. Balon is out. Nope. Ning should already just be going to the Scuttle Crab. This fight's over. Jackie Love ends up getting a turret plate. And now Ning is going to be able to get the Scuttle Crab. Jackie Love's going to crash the wave, which means that it bounces back in, which is a nightmare for Lucian and Braum because the golems were just eaten by J4, which means he doesn't have a responsibility to come back down into bottom. It was interesting by Ning that he just went on to Clid, even though Clid couldn't enter the fight, so he should have just actually saved his cooldown. And so now Ning is here, but Clid is also here for the counter gank. Galio coming in, but... well, okay. They're not respecting the Galio, and now this does mean that Zoe should be able to get a turret plate in mid. Braum comes in to mid to help a little bit, and now Zoe continuing to shove in the wave, and then after this she should just recall, because realistically there's no way to actually kill Faker. Ning should just be able to actually eat the golems and then get the red buff and then look for priority again, because middle lane will be resetting, and Faker actually did a good job, canceled Rookie's recall. Rookie is very low on mana. And it's also a cannon wave, and so he's going to try to crash this wave in and doesn't actually even attempt to go get a plate. Xin is there, and Xin immediately goes over to the Wolves. The Shy actually ends up getting a solo kill onto Khan, and he's getting a lot of value on this turret. And we can see that Clid is not even showing any intention to try to come up. Nice play. Clid's making a lot happen, but he's doing it in all the wrong places. And that's been one of the problems for this game. And so Faker he's currently down only 9 CS. Ends up getting a kill there onto Xin, and we just take a look at this one more time, and we ask ourselves, well, why is Ning doing what he's doing? So right here, you can see that they're trying to clear out vision. Now, take a look at top lane. What you're seeing right here is that the Shy can actually build up about 2.5 waves, crash onto the turret, get the last plate, or no, actually plates are down. He can crash this onto the turret, get the turret down in top lane, and there's nothing for Ning to actually farm, so you can see that he's trying to get vision and whatnot. Galio is almost in close proximity, but Kai'Sa's actually having a very fine time down in bottom lane, and every single lane right now for IG is actually ahead. So when you know that Kennen's missing, there should be absolutely no reason that you prioritize getting river vision when there's no neutral objective to realistically get. And so right now, they have the Herald. They probably could just use it in mid lane, because you know that Kai'Sa can't be asked to come all the way up into mid. And then with Ryze and Clid, you pull Galio into mid lane, and then Braum and Lucian are against Kai'Sa, and if Kai'Sa shoves too many minions, then Lucian and Braum get a freeze. Kai'Sa ends up getting zoned out of experience, and then Kai'Sa ends up actually losing a little bit in the CS department as well, and those are definitely easy ways to start accruing advantages back. Mountain Drake goes over to the way of IG. Another Mountain Drake will be spawning next. This is a pretty nightmare situation. SK Telecom is in a really bad spot. Faker's actually doing a pretty good job, all things considered. He's managed a lot of things pretty well. Rookie's also been doing a good job, but Rookie has also dropped the ball on some lane manipulations. And Jarvan going for the full AD build. I agree that that's a very good choice. And my internet froze. Okay. Back into the live game here. Faker meeting the minion wave and shoving it in immediately. Now he could start actually pathing towards top. Just to apply Fog of War pressure. Red buff coming up. SKT is in such a bad spot right now. Such a bad spot. It's really going to come down to Jarvan and Kennen trying to lock down the primary carries. If Jarvan can eviscerate Kai'Sa inside of a team fight, then that should be the way that SKT actually ends up winning. IG playing very safe. They should have just accepted those minions. Rookie ends up actually having to flash away because they're clearing out luxury vision. The Shy is in a beautiful spot up in top lane. He's also going to be able to get to recall. And now the way that top lane ends up working is that it's going to slow push back into IG. So if IG actually won this team fight, if the Shy wasn't late on his tempo here, if he gave up this last wave that you can see, because you know that Kennen's going to come back and push it, right? So this wave right here, if you recall on this wave, and Kennen shoves it back in, you can catch 3 waves up in top lane eventually. And if you have the teleport and you beat them to the dragon, this is a very good spot for the IG team composition to actually fight. Because they're the ones that are going to be in the driver's seat, and the area is going to be very good for them. Rookie, unfortunately, did end up blowing Flash, and so it looks like that this mountain is going to go over to SK Telecom, and then Baolon just... Okay, well, that was a nice play by Faker. Well, I don't know what IG's doing. It's almost like the I is 1. Like this is 1G and then there's G2, you know? It's looking very reminiscent. Also, it should be noted that Xin Zhao is going Black Cleaver, which makes absolutely 0 sense. There's really no amplification that he needs to be worrying about in this game. Should have just gone Sterax and been a tank for the Zoe and the Kai'Sa and the Sylas. Because extended teamfights is going to favor IG. That was very nice by Faker. And IG are just inting. Makes absolutely no sense. They were very, very late. They got into a winning position for the Shy, and then they were unable to finalize it. Kennen ended up living right there too, which is really sad. And now SK Telecom, they have a almost 2,500 gold lead, but it's still not enough. IG can easily still stabilize and come back, and then the Zoe factor is always really scary. Guardian Angel completed for Jarvan. I really like that. It means that he can go much more aggressive in balls to the wall. They've put Faker down in bottom lane, and he's going to end up raising a turret. And so this is the state of the game where it enters into a little bit of a lull state. There's no reason for SK Telecom to look for a fight before the next Infernal. That way you give Jarvan the ability to get Kindle Gem or try to get, you know, even closer towards the Black Cleaver. But instead he actually picks up a Null Magic Mantle. So maybe he's intending to go Hex Drinker against the Sylas and the Zoe and even the Galio. Lucian ends up getting the red buff. Lucian should have eaten the Wraiths before getting the red buff to maximize duration, because then it's just better for whatever ends up happening around Dragon. IG, very similarly to G2, let's take a look at this. See this? See Jackie Love on the minimap? You see how Faker is about to come up and start shoving this wave? It means that Jackie Love can eat the wave all the way back here. You see how there's a minute until Dragon? And you see how Rookie's shoving top? And then Red's coming up. It means Jackie Love waits for the wave, eats the wave, goes to Red, gets Red, comes back into mid, eats the next wave. Ning goes like this, eats this, Rookie CS's this, recalls, Rookie starts pathing like this. And then you have Jackie Love right here. Ning eats this, and then you basically unify as 5 and advance into the river against the incoming Infernal Drake, and obviously placing vision and whatnot as you go. But instead, IG is deciding that they would like to put the Kai'Sa in mid lane, because it is life or death if Kai'Sa ends up getting 40 or 60 gold at this exact point in time, because the Infernal's not coming up in a minute. SKT comes over to the Baron. Now they have the Baron, and this should be able to be converted very easily into the Infernal Drake. So everything is going very, very, very good for them. Because you know that IG will not contest the Infernal, it would have been much better for Clid to actually just go like this, eat this, and then escort the next minion wave, this one, while Teddy and Mata eat this wave. And then what ends up happening is Khan, let's take a look at Khan. See Khan? This wave, you don't want to tap this yet. So if Clid was already eating this and then could begin pathing down here, Faker has teleport, Faker stays up in top, Mata and Teddy eat the Infernal Drake, and then you have this wave being tapped, this wave is being tapped going up into here, it's met by Sylas, Ryze ends up recalling, has teleport available. After the Infernal, you come down to 2.5 waves built up, now you tap it with the Baron, mid wave is synchronized with the bottom wave, mid wave will end up crashing and being eaten by one of the members of IG, which it probably won't do any chip damage here. This will not crash, Sylas will end up getting it, Ryze ends up coming down into bottom lane, and then you look to get this and then this, and obviously this is a very key objective because it's furthest inhibitor from the Baron buff. And then you basically ideally try to siege. Jarvan does have the Guardian Angel. Kennen will have flash up at that time, and I believe that he should have his ultimate up. So you can attempt to dive the turret, because it would be very difficult for IG to actually hold off against it, even with the Shy, if he was able to somehow capture one of the key ultimates like Braum or Kennen prior to the fight. And so you end up raising the 2 turrets here, you get the inhibitor, and then after this you end up grouping and then recalling. Now you have super minions down in bottom, and then from there all that you end up doing is you execute a 3-2-0 with the 2 being J4 and Ryze. A little bit of a poor decision by SKT. Because they didn't eat the dragon right away, it doesn't give them option select with Elder. And now in mid lane, IG does not want to fight. They do not want to fight right now. I don't know what they were just thinking. So definitely a loss of tempo and a little bit of a lost opportunity here. Morellonomicon, I'm sure some people will meme about it because it's me. Morellonomicon is okay here because of the Sylas on the Kennen. He gets the HP as well. It gives him some durability. And so now SKT are going to be reliant on waiting until next Infernal or next Baron. And if you're IG, you know that you've already signed up for this, and so you should already just have it in your mind that you're content to wait. Still really not sure why Ning is continuing on with the Black Cleaver. Rookie almost actually goes down. The Shy whiffs, and they almost... You see, it's actually pretty difficult. Even in dream scenarios for SKT, they can't just magically perforate turrets. Obviously, if they're all grouped and IG are out of position, or if they have Baron minions, then yes, they can definitely be a lot more reckless. But you can see that champions can't just arbitrarily walk up to things and then kill them. And so right now, IG, they're not freezing lanes. They're not trying to slow and stall and do whatever they can to keep accruing as much gold and XP as possible before the major next team fights. It's also really unfortunate for them. SK Telecom rolled yet another Infernal Drake, which is really, really problematic because, again, Jarvan and Kennen's main job is just to assassinate Kai'Sa at the beginning of a fight. Because if Kai'Sa ends up going down and you end up losing Kennen or Jarvan, it's very easy for Ryze and Lucian at that point to manage the Sylas and Zhao and Zoe. And you can see, yet again, they can't just push the wave. And so they have to wait for an objective, and they keep playing this vision fighting game. 19 seconds now until the Infernal. This is a very, very scary situation. Now they just go back, they get the Infernal. This is good by SKT. That was 18 AD for J4. So if it gave J4 18 AD, imagine what it just gave Lucian. That was easily a multi-thousand dollar dragon. Might have even given Kennen a longsword too. I wish that we had stats for that. And now Baron. And so this is the scary situation now. SK Telecom, they have a very large advantage, but they can easily throw it. Ning ends up going down right there. Let's take a look at this team fight one more time. So right here, Ning ends up dying, and then Jackie Love ends up actually getting stunned by Kennen, and then Faker is able to get onto him, and then that's pretty much the end of the game. We can just watch the engage one more time. Not that. So you can see, why is Ning staying here? Rookie and even Kai'Sa, Jackie Love, have a blue trinket. You know that they're not doing the Baron yet, so why is Ning here? Doesn't make any sense. He should actually just be back, because all that you're looking for here is sleepy bubble troubles and poke from Kai'Sa. Ultimate comes out, and you know that this is Kennen. So as soon as you know that that's Kennen, why is Jackie Love still moving forward? Now, Jackie Love also could have flashed this and not been stunned. Had he done that, Khan surely would have went down. And had Khan went down even sooner, let's take a look again. If Khan goes down sooner, Galio's still alive. And if Galio's still alive and the Shy has flash and Faker does this play and the Shy flashes over, locks up Faker, Galio's still there too. Let's say that Faker's around here. I think that it is entirely possible to actually kill Faker. Khan would be dead. Faker could die. Rookie has the flash available. He flashes into the Shy and teammates. IG can definitely win this game. Or they can definitely win the team fight if it's played out a little bit different. Obviously, SK Telecom can also play it out differently. SKT should win the team fight from the way that the champions were positioned leading up to it. And now that is going to be the Realm Warp, and SKT ends up taking down IG. Now, one of my comments from this game is that SKT were actually behind in the mid-game. Nice SKT ad. They drafted a team composition that needed to get ahead. And the thing is that it needed to get ahead in mid lane. It needed to get ahead in bottom lane. Kennen, his job in the later stage, if he can overkill Kai'Sa, that's great. But the reality is that if Jarvan has intention to just go AD anyway, he doesn't need to be dealing massive amounts of damage, but also realistically, he should be able to sustain well enough on his own up and top, because it should be pretty difficult for Sylas and Jin Zhao to actually dive blue side Kennen. So even though Clid was doing a really good job early on with making stuff happen, it was happening in the wrong areas. And as a byproduct of that, Khan was doing very random roams that there was really nothing that existed. Sometimes it actually paid off because IG was making poor decisions. Ning was also not really assessing, I think, both teams' win conditions. The open Drake attempt was also really, really bad by IG. Bottom lane was actually doing really good. Teddy and Motto were not getting the advantages that they needed. And then what ended up really happening was that explosive transition where the Shy actually misutilizes his timing. He misutilizes his timing with the teleport and whatnot, and then they end up losing and giving away a lot of kills. But even still, from that point, the game was definitely still winnable. So it's really sad to actually see. So the thing for this is that SKT's team composition, obviously it's trying to play towards their strengths, right? Strong mid, strong bottom lane, Clid on a jungler that he can do stuff with. The issue is that they weren't able to get the type of advantages in the spots where they actually needed it. And so this game actually looks very reminiscent of G2, where I think IG were actually playing a lot, or the G2 TL game, where IG had very clear things that they should have been doing, and through their own decision-making, enabled SK Telecom to have the opportunities to kill them. But had IG played defensive and assessed the situations correctly, it would have been very, very difficult and arguably almost impossible for SKT to really force issues, even with the good RNG that they got. Now, imagine if Zoe has Flash here, and imagine if the Shy was already recalled, and then Xin Zhao is already recalled and pathing towards this. This is actually a very, very nice team fight for IG to try to take. But definitely a lack of opportunity capture. So SK Telecom, this doesn't make me feel comfortable. I feel like, yes, they outmuscled their opponent, but it wasn't through good play. It was more so the opponent making blunders. SK Telecom found themselves in very, very ugly spots consistently throughout this game, and they managed to muscle their way through it, but that's not something that you want to be doing. You want to be the one putting your opponents in positions where they don't really have a very good clear-cut choice for what to do. You don't want to be the one that's on a ticking time bomb. You don't want to be the one that has to look for opponents to make mistakes or hope that they end up doing it. So I believe that SKT plays against G2. I think that if SKT brings these type of team compositions and they play to their strengths, then it's just a superior version of G2. But SKT, they have been plagued with really bad drafts. And I would say that the draft this game, obviously, IG had much better opportunity, the stuff that I talked about earlier on. But I think that I would say that this is a bad draft, and I mean, it starts here. This is too devoted in one direction that allows the opponents to recalibrate their draft. And the only way to salvage it is the willingness to play long-range hypercarry ADC as a means to an out, which isn't necessarily that bad depending on what your opponents pick. But if SKT don't have the ability to do that, which they do because it's Teddy, this is very rough. But also, you have to pick the long-range ADC and then decide what you're going to do with the Rise in these spots, which still gives the opponent option to decide what to do. And I think that Braum is actually very abusable, and the ways that he is abusable forces you into that type of a situation. So SK Telecom has been plagued by really bad drafts, even in LCK. It just makes really no sense. It reminds me of Griffin in a way where they consistently have these really, really poor drafts, and they have very, very slow meta adaptions, even though one might argue that, well, Tarzan played Evelyn that one time, and Chovy's willingness to play Galio. But for how strong these teams are, it's really sad to see them restricted and limited by poor drafts once the games start.